The hotel cleaner's scream echoed through the empty hallways of the Regal Orchid Hotel. Her mop clattered to the floor, water splashing in all directions. She staggered backward, her hands trembling as she stared at the bed. Caterpillars, dozens of them, wriggling, crawling, slithering on the crisp white sheets. They moved like tiny, cursed messengers, whispering of something unnatural. The cleaner's breath hitched in her throat. She turned and bolted out of the room, shouting for the manager. Once upon a time, there lived a man called Cunnle. Cunnle was the kind of man who thrived on speed. Fast cars, fast money, and even faster pleasures. At 38, he had carved a name for himself in Lagos, a city that rewarded ambition and punished hesitation. He owned a flourishing transport company, several high-end properties, and the kind of wealth that made people respect him, even if they didn't necessarily like him. But beneath the polished exterior, Cunnel had a secret indulgence, one that even his closest friends whispered about when he wasn't around. Women. Not just any women, prostitutes. He never sought companionship or romance, never cared for the complications of love. For him, emotions were messy, unpredictable, and entirely unnecessary. What he wanted was simple: the thrill of the night, the fleeting warmth of a stranger's body, and the assurance that when morning came, there would be no lingering expectations. It started as a casual indulgence, something he justified as a harmless escape. But over time, it became a habit, one he couldn't shake even if he wanted to. Whenever the loneliness crept in, whenever the silence in his luxurious penthouse felt too heavy, he reached for his phone and dialed a number. His friends often warned him. They told him he was playing with fire. "Cunnel, one day this thing will catch up with you," his best friend, Tund, once said, shaking his head. Cunnel had only laughed and said, "Life is short, my brother. Why not enjoy it?" And so he did, night after night, until the night everything changed. On one fateful evening, when Cunnel was driving back home from work, he saw a very beautiful girl standing by the roadside. Her beauty was out of this world. Cunnel couldn't resist the urge of having her on his bed. Nobody knew her real name. She arrived in Lagos as if she had been carried by the wind, silent, unseen, unnoticed, until she wanted to be. The city, with its endless pulse of life, never questioned new faces. And so, she settled into the shadows, appearing only when the sun dipped below the horizon. She was breathtakingly beautiful. Her dark skin glowed like polished onyx under the moonlight, and her eyes held a mystery that made men forget their senses. There was something hypnotic about her. The slow, deliberate way she moved, the way her full lips curved into an inviting smile, promising pleasures untold. She never called out to men. She never needed to. They came to her, drawn like moths to a deadly flame. But she was no ordinary woman. It had been a long day at work for Cunnel. As he drove home through the bustling streets of Lagos, weaving through the evening traffic, his mind was occupied with thoughts of profit margins, logistics, and of course, his usual indulgences. His transport business was thriving. Money wasn't a problem, and neither was finding company whenever he desired. He had always been the kind of man who took what he wanted, never bothering with anything deeper than the surface. Life was short. Why not enjoy it? And then he saw her. She was standing by the roadside, under the dim glow of a streetlight, dressed in a striking red gown that hugged her figure in all the right places. Her dark skin gleamed like polished mahogany under the pale light, and her hair cascaded down her back like a river of silk. But it was her eyes that did it, deep, mysterious, and unreadable, like they held 1,000 untold stories. She was effortlessly beautiful, yet something about her sent a shiver down his spine. Cunnel slowed his car slightly, his grip tightening on the steering wheel. She wasn't like the others. There was something different about her, something he couldn't quite place. He wanted to stop, to roll down his window and say something clever. But before he could act, the car behind him honked impatiently, jolting him out of his trance. When he looked back, she was gone. That night, he couldn't sleep. Her face lingered in his mind, her eyes haunting him even behind closed lids. The next day, he told his friends about her, while they drank at their usual lounge. "I swear, I've never seen a woman like that before," Cunnel said, his voice laced with something close to awe. His friend Bayo scoffed. "Cunnel, you say that about every fine babe you meet." "No, this one is different," Cunnel insisted. "There was something about her." Tun chuckled, sipping his beer. "Every woman is a mystery until you get her into bed." Cunnel shook his head, but he didn't argue. He knew his reputation too well. He was a man who chased skirts, never looking back once he got what he wanted. His friends were right to dismiss his words. But deep down, he knew this woman, whoever she was different. A week later, Cunnel was driving home again, taking the same route when he saw her. Same spot, same red dress, same piercing gaze. His heartbeat quickened. He couldn't just let her slip away this time. He pulled over, rolling down his window. "Hey there." She turned slowly, her lips curving into the faintest smile. "Hey yourself." Cunnel hesitated for a moment, then leaned on the steering wheel. "You out here every night?" "Maybe," she said. "Or maybe you just notice me every night." He chuckled. She was sharp. He liked that. "Can I give you a ride?" he offered. She studied him, as if weighing her options. Then, with deliberate grace, she walked around the car and slid into the passenger seat. Up close, she was even more stunning. Her perfume was intoxicating, earthy, rich, with a hint of something floral yet unfamiliar. "What's your name?" Cunnel asked as he pulled back onto the road. "Lola," she said simply. Beautiful name. Fitting. She had an air of wisdom beyond her years. Her words were carefully chosen, her laughter rare but enchanting. She was different from the women he usually pursued, girls who giggled at his jokes and fell into his bed without much effort. Lola was guarded, and that only intrigued him more. For the first time in a long while, Cunnel wasn't thinking about the chase. He enjoyed the conversation, the mystery, the challenge. By the time he dropped her off at an undisclosed location, he found himself saying something he never said to women like her. "We should do this again. No pressure." Lola tilted her head, considering him. "Maybe." Then she stepped out and disappeared into the night. Cunnel and Lola's relationship grew, though it was hard to define what it was. They texted often, their conversations stretching late into the night. He learned little about her past. She was evasive about details, but she seemed to know an unsettling amount about him. She spoke as if she had known him forever, like she could see right through him. "You're restless," she told him once. "You think chasing women will fill the void, but it never does." He laughed it off. "And what do you think will fill it?" She had only smiled and said nothing. Eventually, the inevitable happened. One evening, after hours of texting, Cunnel suggested they meet up. "Let's have some fun tonight. Just drinks. No pressure." Lola agreed, but her eyes, when she saw him that night, held something he couldn't quite name. They ended up at a luxury hotel. He had meant it when he said there was no pressure, but the energy between them was different that night. Charged. Heavy. As they entered the suite, Cunnel poured them drinks. "To new friendships," he said with a grin, raising his glass. Lola clinked her glass against his, but said nothing, and they later had fun. The next morning, Cunnel stretched lazily in the hotel bed, the soft sheets cool against his skin. The night had been everything he wanted. Lola was just as mesmerizing up close as she had been when he first saw her on the street. She was alluring, mysterious, and knew exactly how to make a man forget his worries. But now, as he reached out to touch her, his fingers met nothing but empty space. He opened his eyes. The spot where she had lain was cold. Lola was gone. Cunnel sat up, rubbing his face. He wasn't surprised. Women like Lola didn't stay. He had seen it before, beautiful, untamed souls who drifted in and out of men's lives like a passing breeze. He chuckled to himself, stretched once more, and slid out of bed. It was just another night, nothing unusual. He took his time in the shower, letting the warm water wash away the last traces of sleep. After dressing in his neatly pressed trousers and a crisp white shirt, he grabbed his car keys and stepped out of the room. The morning air was fresh, the quiet hum of the hotel barely disturbed by his footsteps as he made his way to the elevator. Meanwhile, in the hotel corridor, the cleaning staff had started their rounds. Miriam, one of the older housekeepers, walked down the hallway, pushing her cart of supplies. She was known for being fearless. Nothing in this hotel could shake her. She had seen all sorts of messes, disgusting spills, drunken disasters, and even the occasional forgotten lover sneaking out before dawn. But nothing had prepared her for what she was about to see. Humming a soft tune, she unlocked the door to Cunnel's room and stepped inside. The scent of cologne still lingered in the air. She pulled her cart closer, ready to start her usual routine. Changing the sheets, scrubbing the bathroom, wiping the surfaces. Then she saw it. Clusters of caterpillars. They crawled in thick, writhing groups across the rumpled bed. Fat, green, and unnatural, they twisted and wriggled over the pillows, the sheets, the very spot where someone had just slept. Miriam froze, her breath caught in her throat. Her mind refused to make sense of what she was seeing. She had cleaned rooms for years, but never had she encountered something like this. The mop and bucket in her hands clattered to the floor with a loud thud, water splashing across the tiles. A scream ripped from her throat. "Jesus! Somebody come! Come and see!" Her voice echoed down the corridor, sending a wave of unease through the hotel staff. Footsteps pounded against the hallway as other cleaners and a few guests rushed toward the room, drawn by her terrified cries. "What is it?" one of her colleagues asked breathlessly, peering inside. Miriam pointed a trembling finger at the bed. The others followed her gaze and immediately recoiled. Gasps filled the air. Someone cursed under their breath. Another cleaner clutched the edge of the doorframe as though to steady herself. The caterpillars continued their slow, deliberate movement, crawling as though they had a purpose, as though they had been left behind by something or someone. Where did they come from? A young cleaner whispered in horror. "I don't know," Miriam stammered, stepping backward. "I just came in, and they were there." The hotel manager arrived moments later, his face set in a deep frown. "What's all this noise about?" Miriam pointed again, unable to speak. The manager stepped inside, his expensive shoes clicking against the tiled floor. He barely made it 2 steps before he, too, froze. His eyes widened in disbelief. This can't be real," he muttered, pulling out his phone. He snapped a few pictures, his hands shaking. "Get the maintenance team up here now, and someone find out who stayed in this room last night." As the staff whispered amongst themselves, a heavy tension settled over the hotel. No one could explain it. No one understood why, of all things, caterpillars had appeared where a person had slept. But one thing was certain, something was deeply wrong. And Cunnel? He was already driving away, completely unaware that he had left behind more than just an empty bed. He had left behind a mystery, a sign, a warning, one that no one could yet understand. Not before long, Cunnel started facing great challenges in his life, financially, physically, and spiritually. His whole world came crashing before his very eyes. Business took a reverse turn. He found himself regressing in life, all because of a one-night stand with a woman. This life? Thank you for watching. I hope you have learned something from the story. Please drop your thoughts in the comment section and stay tuned for more interesting stories.